This is hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas, the Revved Up Sports Show on RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Hello, friends. Welcome in. It is another Monday, and it is hashtag Real Race Talk. Back on Monday, back where we belong. We're doing it once again, and we are indeed. Thank you, ma'am. We are live from Texas. It's Showtime. Bobby Chaffee there. I believe on the right side as you're looking at it, and I'm Rodney Rodriguez over on the left side. The show presented, as always, by Audiovisual Consultations, on-demand shirts. A couple of great partners for all of us as we dive in on a March Madness week. We've had just a shit ton of racing that we just saw this past weekend. We got a lot more racing that's coming up this weekend. And, Bobby, here we are, my man. How you doing over there, buddy? In the green. Not going to get pinched today.
Well, I mean, I got the green chones on too, but I mean, I'm not going to show them off.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could on the show, but we don't need the ratings to go down, even though they could possibly go up if that happens. But
I had a buddy where it was like the dude was kind of like me, always wearing black. And, St. Patrick's, it's like, hey, man, you're not wearing green. People would say, well, he's like, I got so much fucking green in my pocket. All right, man, come on. Calm down, man. No need.
That ain't something I got today.
Yeah.
I ain't got the green in the pocket today. That's for sure.
Yeah. Time to go crate racing. It definitely is time to go crate racing because our friends from the American Crate Late Model Series got a weekend coming up that we can talk about here in just a little bit here in the Texas area. It's always a good time to go crate racing. I'm a little partial to those crate engines. I think that's a really nice cost-saving alternative when used correctly. The appropriate word, but lots to break down, Bobby. We can talk about your weekend there at Texana, maybe fire off from there with that, get your thoughts, talk about the Rattler 250 coming up at about 7:35 Central, 8:35 Eastern, if you're checking in on the East Coast over there. Just a typical revved up sports show fashion, Bobby. We've got the winner of the Rattler 250, our man Michael Atwell, will join us. How about that?
Imagine that. The show that started it all still gets the best guest all the time.
And it's one of those things. I got to give a lot of love, and we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But I messaged my man Chris Davidson, who we have talked to so many different times. Great friend of the show. I mean, he's kinfolk to us. It's like this race ends, and I'm like, dude, you got to come on. I want to hear about you guys winning this race. He's like, with all due respect, you need to talk to Atwell. I'm like, all right, there you go. That's Senor Davidson right there. That is Chris Davidson. So, yeah, Michael Atwell. And then around 7:15, Chance Hull is going to join us, a big winner this weekend in a star-studded dwarf car race that we saw this past weekend out at Big O Speedway. And we'll get some other thoughts from him as well over on the dirt side. So, plenty to break down. Bobby, 21 car, the NASCAR. We never lead off with Cup. That is such a beautiful race car. And it's even prettier in Victory Lane. Damn,
it's pretty in person.
Oh,
we got to check it out at Coda, and it looked great in person. But man, I'm telling you, when the Wood Brothers wins, and nobody cares, right? Even when Harrison Burton had that fluke win, but whatever, put the asterisk beside it or whatever you want to, he still was the 100th winner there in the Wood Brothers. But nobody seems to get mad when the Wood Brothers. It's like when Truex was kicking everybody's ass in 16, 17, and 18. And remember that time he waxed their ass at the Coke 600, really like 392 with 400 laps, and nobody cared because it was Truex.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing. If the Wood Brothers go out, and they've had speed, throughout various parts of the season definitely at the restrictor plate tracks, or the super duper speedways, as they like to call it now, since we don't run restrictor plates and it's the tapered spacers. But I mean, they've had a lot of speed almost everywhere they've gone. That Penske Alliance is actually showing up pretty positively, because I didn't realize that those cars were produced at Penske as much as they are. I
Yeah.
thought they did a lot of. I thought they were kind of like Stuart Haas used to be with the Hendrick stuff, where they would get the Hendrick chassis and the Hendrick engines, but they would hang their own bodies. But no, I think a lot of those times those 21 cars come out of Penske as a 14. So
Yeah, absolutely. It really is cool to see that. And for Josh Berry, that's a guy where, with the move right there, I think a lot of folks. I remember when the move was made to bring him in, and it was one of those really jacked up scenarios, I think, for him, where he came in and he's supposed to, he's jumping in the Harvick car, and you're the guy following the guy. And again, you can say what you want to say about Kevin Harvick. He's won a championship, and now he's just doing amazing things in media. But when you're following that guy, and then the state that Stuart Haas was in at the time, it was a very unfortunate situation to where, that Josh Berry was just kind of doomed to fail, unfortunately, the way that's set up. But for him to break out, and that car has been good all year long. They just haven't had the finishes to stack it up. And I didn't think it would happen this soon. But that's a short track guy, man. And that's why I hope a lot of people are excited with that, because that's, again, like we said, that's one of our dudes. It's one of our dudes that won yesterday.
So what's the bigger win, Butterbean at Daytona or Josh Berry in Vegas?
I think
short trackers.
I think probably the Butterbean, to be honest with you, because he's still more entrenched with, you still see him in cars, and you still see him in different places, to where Josh has kind of moved on, and now he's a Cup guy, and he's a solidified Cup guy, or has been, for a little bit. But just the fact right there, and I think kind of to that point right there, the other thing with this, because too, you can count right now the superlative drivers that you want to see on the Cup Series. And I really saw this firsthand. And this is something we could talk to Chance Hull about. I saw it firsthand at the Chili Bowl, to where, look, Chris Bell and Kyle Larson. Those guys, those are homebred, badass race car drivers that are dirt car drivers that are dominating NASCAR right now. Bell a little bit more than Larson at the moment, but it tells you how that short track field still really is very important.
I think so. I asked Christopher Bell about it there at COTA after he won. I said, you've been able to do a lot of extracurricular races, sprint cars, Chili Bowls. When you win the Chili Bowl down there, you're running super late models for Donnie Wilson down at New Smyrna. I said, so does that help you now? He said, well, the dirt stuff helped me out real good. Because of the fact that the track was dirty and had a lot of, didn't have a lot of grip there at COTA. But it's got to be help. If it doesn't help, they're not going to do it. Other than just a little bit of fun. Larson does a lot of the sprint car stuff for fun. And speaking of sprint cars locally, World Outlaws coming to our friends at Cottonwood Speedway Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah. To that point right there about the Cup guys doing sprint car stuff. Did you see Ty Gibbs at Vegas?
Ty Gibbs, yeah, he tumbled like a pair of dice, didn't he, down that straightaway?
That was, I thought about that because I as well. I talked to Bell because he won our race. He won the O'Reilly Race of Champions. So I got to talk with him really good amount of time after that. And he's like, man, to be able to get in the car and to be able to get in here and not be, it's one thing to be at the racetrack, but to be competing, he's like, it really kind of stimulates the senses and everything. He's like, the sim is one thing, but when you're actually behind the wheel, even though, a vast difference between a midget car and a Cup car. But yeah, I thought about that with Bell, with the whole thing being so thankful about Coach Gibbs letting him race with dirt. I'm like, after the Ty Gibbs thing, maybe keep Ty, maybe keep him out of it. Maybe he doesn't need to be doing that.
Well, Larson's flipped a couple of times, but he just keeps on going. Basically, when Larson started doing it on a regular basis, you knew those other Cup guys with the dirt backgrounds and the super late model backgrounds, you knew they were going to beg, borrow, and plead their car owners to let them do that.
Yeah.
They let Larson run the Indianapolis 500.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's talk about a crossover. I mean, that's a hell of a lot different than a sprint car. So
Mm-hmm. And it really is where you look at that, and I do think, I know that we've talked about this in the past when those guys do that, and yeah, it's a gate attraction. It's a very good for short track racing. Obviously when you bring those dudes around, it's something to where it's gonna help sell tickets, and for short tracks that's great because we want front gate, we want people streaming, we want people watching stuff. But when you go back and you think about it, you look at Bobby Allison. Look at the Alabama gang. Look at Darrell Waltrip. Look at those guys, and you look at the roots and everything. And I think that Freddie Fryer conversation that we had, that we were so lucky to have with him before he passed on. By the way, congratulations, Jared Fryer, a big winner last week there at Southern National in the late model stock. So always good to see a Fryer 14 in victory lane. But it's like when you pull all this together and you think about that, these guys were racing short tracks all the time. So it's really cool to see these guys doing this again, because it kind of does root them back in just a little bit. And even like Chastain when he goes out and does short track racing, and Chase when he does it. I think it's super important that they do that to kind of tie all this stuff together. But a little scary right there for Ty Gibbs. And that dude was out of that car that fast, man. That was like, holy shit.
Well, Chase Elliott sells more tickets. We saw that in person at the Derby in 2020.
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't make that place a sellout, but boy, when they found out that he was coming, there was a lot of last minute reserve tickets that were purchased.
It is, and that's like at the Chili Bowl, for example. When Kyle Busch shows up, I mean, there were a lot of people that are excited now because Kyle Busch is popular now. And so there were so many people that I talked to where it's like, I'm really excited to see Kyle Busch here, and Gibbs was there too. Ty was there as well. It's like, I'm really excited to see Kyle Busch. And I'm like, he's probably not going to get into the race, right? And it's like, no, but the fact that he's here, was a big deal. So anyway, it's really cool to see that reciprocated back.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, including Kyle Busch's rear tire.
Yeah, man, that's a tough break right there for him. And when we say that he's popular
on my fantasy league, that was real tough to watch.
Oh man, that I had really high hopes for him because they've come out of the box pretty strong, but it just wasn't meant to be for them as those problems creep in again. And I really do want that 8 car to be competitive. I want Kyle Busch to be competitive because it's like when the Dallas Cowboys are good in the NFL and the Lakers are good, and then the Yankees are good in baseball, which, by the way, I'll be up at 5:00 in the morning tomorrow to watch the Cubs and the Dodgers in Japan. But it's when Kyle Busch is doing really, really good things in NASCAR Cup racing, that's good for business. That's really good for business.
When your established stars are winning races and winning championships, that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Speaking of Vegas, in those high limits races that we saw, in the high limit race on Saturday, there's Corey Day, man. That dude is a shining star right there that has already been scooped up. He outruns Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet to win there in high limits at Las Vegas. And I think that was another scenario, wasn't it, with the Vegas track? That track hadn't had a lot of mileage on it, had it? And I know they were kind of struggling with some track prep to get that baby together, but damn good race right there. Corey Day, man, that's a wheel man. That is one hell of a wheel man.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I wonder who had more to say in that, Jeff Gordon or Kyle Larson, in terms of getting Corey Day signed, because he's going to run some truck races. He's going to run some of those Xfinity races. So in the 17, so it's he's kind of like Connor Zilic, just getting the best opportunity he has with the opportunity presented, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking the most advantage of that for him. And then you mentioned World of Outlaws heading over to Cotton Bowl Speedway, and that I mean, it's just the World of Outlaws on that. You're working Saturday, aren't you? Or
Friday and Saturday, both days.
Nice. Well done. It is Gio the winner on Friday, and then on Saturday it is my man Buddy Kofoid, who is I think this is going to be the year for Buddy to be able to I guess you want to call it a little bit of a sophomore slump last year. I think he breaks out of that as they head over, and our man Sam Havertape, a great run for him. So that's going to be a star-studded show, man, and they just blaze around that place. They just blaze around Cotton Bowl Speedway.
It's perfect. It's perfect for sprint cars. Totally perfect. The banking's just right. The length of the straightaway is just right, and it's gonna be a hell of a show. It could have been a few more cars signed up for the local stuff. Actually talked to Dalton Faulkner about it on Saturday down at Texana, and even he was a little disappointed that there wasn't more guys pre-registered to run that race there at Cotton Bowl. So
Yeah.
I think there's 16 and they were waiting for 24. So
Well, and I think we're a little early. I mean, I think it's early in the year. You know, we saw that with the 37 race. I had higher aspirations that we were going to see more for the Jamie Campbell race. But again, it's early on, so maybe that's part of it. But I'll tell you
Fireballs. We had invited Fireballs down in Texana, and there were 3, and 2 of them were Tony's running double up.
Everybody always ready to race till it's time to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the way that is. I'll tell you one division that never lacks, and it is the dwarf cars, whether it's the Lone Star Series up north here in our region, or if it's the DCRST down south. And you've got a huge one coming up in a couple of weeks out at South Texas Race Ranch. You had a great contingent of cars out at Big O Speedway this past weekend, and here is the man that punched a ticket and headed over to Victory Lane once again. Always a perennial contender in these dwarf cars. It is our man Chance Hull. Chance, how you doing, brother?
How's it going, guys? Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Thank you for taking the time to dive on, man. Talk about the weekend, dude. Looked like a pretty good day at the office for you.
Yeah, it was real good. We were trying some things at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, and just kind of we're fast, but not where we should have been. So we just kind of went back to the basics, and the car got a lot faster. So I guess we'll just stick to what we know.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Chance, one thing that Rodney and I always talk about when we're announcing the races, especially the dwarf cars or mod lights or something along that same kind of platform, is that despite the size, these cars are full-blown badass race cars, right? You got the containment seats, you got the Hans, you got the big motors, you got the power to weight, you got everything. How hard is that to convey to people as a driver that when they say, "Oh, these little cars are cute," and you're like, "Well, they're cute, but they're badass machines." Like how hard is that for you to relay to just your average everyday race fan?
Yeah, it's really hard. Unless you really see them in person and really see what how much work goes into them. And, like you said, they're full-blown race cars that have everything a big car has and more. I mean, I think people get stuck with the dwarf cars 10 years ago, and it's just not like that anymore. There's only a handful of classes that are quicker lap times than we are now. And we always have good car counts, and I think that's been a big dwarf car thing for a long time is, the racing wasn't that good back then and the cars weren't that great, but they always brought cars, they always showed up and, they paid their dues just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think with how the racing's been going here lately, I think we're getting a few more eyes, with, now 600 adding us to the TMS little track. That was a big deal for us. And then the Central States picking up, I feel like that's getting some more attention. So I feel like they need a lot more attention than what they're getting now. They definitely deserve a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Chance, haven't driven, those cars myself. I mean, talk to the point about when, like Bobby said, when people say they're cute, I mean, which they are. I mean, they look really badass. They're not cute.
Yeah.
They just look really cool. And there's never like a bad looking car. I mean, everybody that has one of these takes a lot of pride in what these cars look like. But talk about driving these things. I mean, people just don't get it. When I would try to explain to people, it's like you just don't understand the twitchiness of these things. And I know now you guys, with power steering and all the evolvements that have happened, kind of talk about that part, man. And everything's right there at the foot, man. I always used to say, when I'm thinking about hitting the gas, the car is already taking off.
Yeah. That's exactly right. There's a lot more power than what people realize, and everybody has the same reaction the first time that they drive them. It's like, holy shit, what the hell was that? I had no idea. And they're on decent tires, but I mean, you can't put a whole lot of the power down, not near what you need to. But they're a damn handful. I mean, to say the least. like you said, with power steering, that's helped out a lot. But I've drove a whole lot of things, and a dwarf car is by far one of the hardest to drive. Period.
Absolutely.
And that it's hard for people to like, oh, whatever. It's like I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, get in one and you'll see. But
Yep.
So how you said you want them to get the stuff that they deserve, the accolades and stuff like that. Is that growing with all of these, big multi-state races coming together? You got the big ones that run up in Kansas, you got a couple of big ones here, you got a big one coming up in Corpus in a couple of weeks. Is that just because it's the platform that you could kind of go? Are they kind of like an IMCA car where they can go anywhere? Are the rules kind of simplified, or you have to change from region to region to kind of run these big races?
I think this year and
Nope. I think he may have froze up there just for a second. Let's make sure it's not me. Are you still there, Bobby?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, maybe him. Oh man, that was a good one too. All right. So yeah, he's kind of going back and forth there a little bit. Let's jump him out here for just a second. Kind of keep him there in the waiting room and see if we get him back. So he kind of dropped there for a second. But that, like with the Central States, because that really is, because I remember right when I was kind of transitioning out of full-time racing, that was when Central States, that's where DCRST and them, they were the first thing that they did. They got themselves in line with the North Group, and that was pretty important, because with DCRST down here, I mean, we were very much our own, Bobby, better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was very homegrown, its own kind of, little type of thing right there. So it was, I mean, Arden built everything. Arden built every part. I mean, it was one of those deals. But then once they were able to align with the North Group, and then the Central States came to be, and Dwayne Groff, I think, is just so imperative in putting this together, to where they've been able to do that. And now you've got it, and the cars look a lot different, to where it's not the same old, kind of dwarf car that we used to talk about, the old Arizona dwarf car. But I think hands back. Maybe.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Let's see here. Oh, locked in. Getting a little bit back to him. There we go.
I don't have that.
Don't have the picture.
Got the echo.
Well,
yeah. Pull him out there just for a second, and see if we can make that work. The magic of live radio, like we're talking about.
I know. Well, live radio, live video now, right? It's one
live
thing
radio.
if it does, it's live radio, live cast, right? That's the joy of it, right? Warts and all, you won't hear this edited out, and the other occurring videos and or the podcast. You'll get to hear this in its entirety, whether we get to run it or not.
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing about it. But that was the thing when Central States came in, it really tied everything together, and it was where everybody did jump on board and figured out a way to make it work. And it with the car now, I mean, like we were saying, it is a very different car. And Chance, if you can actually hear me, maybe keep your video off. I'll pull you back in, and maybe we can just do audio, and hopefully we don't have the echo. So let's try it one more time.
Hey, you hear me now?
There we go. We still have a little bit of echo.
Gosh. Oh.
Well. Okay. I'm going to take you back out. I'll send you a message here right. All right. So that all came together, and I think it worked out really well, to where you've got guys here that travel up there, and people coming down here. The Corpus race is going to be huge. I mean, this Corpus race is going to be huge. I talked to Dwayne about it this past week, and man, they're expecting so many cars.
That's a good thing, That's a good thing to have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One more shot. Here we go. Chance, how you doing, buddy? Do not hear an echo. How you doing, man?
I don't know why it's not working.
There we go. That's all right. That is all right. We can try to sync up with him here in just a little bit. But yeah, and kind of to go over that top five, that was the other thing that I wanted to talk to him about. So he wins that race at Big O. Jeff Patterson, Ryan Stoy, a hell of a drive over the weekend for him, as he had some issues, had some problems, able to get back on the podium. Brandon Spreen, and then you had I think it was Dylan Payne rounding out the top five. So pretty good show right there. When the dwarf cars come around, they're not going to lack. And I wanted to ask him, and maybe we can still figure out a way, maybe after Michael Atwell, to get back in touch with Chance. Because that dude has lived the Chili Bowl. He's done the Tulsa Shootout, and just to kind of talk about that, man, to get inside the mind of that, where we were talking about that event.
Yeah, definitely. When you have a chance to talk to somebody that's run the stress of the alphabet soup, and the stress of just being there at the Chili Bowl with all those cars, that's got to make it easier when you go to one of these bigger. And we could ask him later, what easier to run one of the bigger dwarf car shows, easier in those air quotes, just because of the fact that when you have 200 something people at the Chili Bowl versus 75 cars at a national dwarf car event, so it's got to be somewhat. I mean, I would think it'd be slightly easier to go through 70 cars than it would be to go through, 200 cars.
Oh man, and you would think the thing about that, with everything that they do right there, I mean, the stress right there, it was, I would still, I mean, even to the last time that I got behind the wheel, not that I've gotten behind the wheel for the last time, like I always put that disclaimer in there, there's like you still gets nerve-wracking, and that's like to go run a freaking heat race, you know what I mean, or to run a feature, or run a main event where it's like you're automatically in. I mean, imagine that, where you're like racing to race again, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Every race is a last chance race kind of deal.
Oh my goodness, that just has to be so crazy to think about that. So we'll try to get him back here in just a minute. But again, big race out there at Big O Speedway, and of course coming up at the South Texas Race Ranch in 2 weeks. It is in 2 weeks. It is the Central States Dwarf Car Nationals. That's going to be happening. So get yourself out there. That's going to be one hell of a show. And I think
that's basically used to run a Cotton Bowl, right?
What's that?
The Central Station, that's when they used to run a combo. They moved it to Corpus this year, right?
They moved it to Corpus. I think I did that race. I think I did that race last year, maybe the year before. I think I did a race over there, and it was just that entire pit area of the South Texas Race Ranch. You drive in there right off of the highway. That thing was totally full. So I would suspect that we see that once again.
Because that's the only thing racing is the dwarf cars that night, right? Or do they have any of the sport classes?
I think it's just dwarf cars. I think it is all dwarf cars that night, or that weekend, because it's a 2-day show, and they will need all of 2 days and 3 days. They will need all of that to get everybody qualified in there and get all of them run, because it's people from all over the country. I remember the one that I did, the Nationals. There was Oregon, California. We had a bunch of Texas guys. You had folks from way up in
Midwest,
northern, So it will definitely be a great show, and that's coming up in 2 weeks. And we'll try to sync up with Chance here in just a minute.
Okay, well, that works. So speaking of stuff that's coming up, did you realize that I don't know if it's on your notes or not, about the HMP stuff coming up? Did you get the notes on that today?
I just know that there is a race this weekend. I've seen some schedule revisions and all that, but break it down for me, because I'm a little bit out of the loop at the moment.
Oh, well, hell, I was going to ask you about it. I thought you were more in tune than I was.
Oh, well.
Since I'm doing World of Outlaws, all I know is congrats to the track, because it looks like almost every single class that's running at the Palace of Power this year has a title sponsor for the class.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that. It that man, that's a great deal. And good work by those folks. I mean, it's what it's all about right there. That's definitely going to help keep it going.
Now we just got to have the cars out there. That's the biggest thing.
And there's that part.
Yeah, there's that part, is getting the cars out there. The sponsorship is there. The trophies are there. The racetrack is there. Now we just need the racers to get there.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is exactly for sure. This past weekend, and speaking of Texas, I mean, we're talking about pavement racing in Texas, and of course, one of our pavement racing families here, long time, the Texas legend, Greg Davidson, his son, Chris Davidson. We all know our man, old Christopher, one of our favorite dudes that we were talking about right here. These guys, They head off to the 49th annual Hardee's Rattler 250 this past weekend at South Alabama Speedway, and a great job by the folks there at South Alabama to make this happen with the rainstorms and so forth that were coming along. And when it's all said and done, fast time winner of the 49th annual Hardee's Rattler 250, driving that Davidson number 14A. We welcome to the show, fresh off of that win, fresh off of that rattlesnake. It is our man, Michael Atwell. Champ, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing well, Michael. Doing well. So, in knowing the Davidsons as Bobby and I know them, how was the celebration after that big win?
It was by the end of the night, it got a little dark.
But
it's always a good time drinking with those guys and celebrating a big win like that. We needed to get the monkey off our back. And this weekend couldn't have gone any better. Like you said, put it on the pole and lead almost every lap, and it was really cool seeing the smile on Chris's face and Mike's face, and we celebrated for sure afterwards.
No doubt.
So, Michael, you talk about the monkey off your back. The rattlesnake probably had a tendency to scare that thing off. So we ask everybody that wins a Rattler, how were the nerves doing when you had that thing kind of buzzing right by your head, right by your ear when they go to take them victory lane photos and that rattlesnake's wrapped around you?
I wasn't really too worried about it. The adrenaline was pumping. Obviously, we won the race, so I was excited to get it around my neck. And the guy standing behind me, and he's like, "Make sure you don't make any sudden movements." I'm like, "Okay." And as he's saying that, I get a cramp in my hamstring. I'm like, "Oh God, please, can we hurry this up?"
Oh my God. Yeah. The year I was down there at, well, they were like, "Okay, come down." I was doing play-by-play for the race. They're like, we want to do a picture of you with the snake. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, if I was driving, maybe, but just being here a motor mouth, I'm not going to go do that. I want to ask you about so just the whole. Let's talk about the weekend, because obviously it got kind of shifted around with everything that happened. I think Ricky and the crew did just a tremendous job. They had a backup plan. Ryan McCullough was on with us last week and talked about here's what's probably going to happen. Kind of talk about how all the wheels in motion happened with that to where you got moved to the traditional Sunday race day and so forth.
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, they moved it up to Saturday there to try and stay away from inclement weather like we normally have every year for that race. Normally, rains on Sunday, and Saturday is perfect. So try and do the right thing, move it up to Saturday, and Saturday is the terrible day, and Sunday is perfect. But a UARA team and Ricky Brooks, I mean, they do a really, really good job of keeping everything organized. They made a call pretty early in the day on Saturday, just to let everybody know that we were going to qualify and then we were going to run the race Sunday. And we had come up and tested previous to last weekend just to work on a few things and that kind of stuff. So when we went and tested, the track was really green. There was no rubber down on it. So showing back up, obviously they had laid a lot of rubber down Wednesday, and the car was still good. But I was happy that we got to race Sunday after it rained a lot, because I knew the beginning of that race there, the track was going to be pretty green, and we were going to have a good car. So, I mean, hats off to those guys for making it look effortless and, trying to plan and get something like that done in such a crammed time space and keep everybody happy. But they did one hell of a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Michael, one of the things that we talk about on this show and other shows, we've had Ricky on and some of the other guys, is that it seems like the pomp and circumstance is not as much there as within other series and spaces. And it's like a lot of guys are drawn to the simplicity of these smaller shows where you don't have to spend, 3 or 4 sets of tires trying to do practice after practice after practice. You show up generally on a Friday practice, you qualify in on a Saturday afternoon, and you race a decent race on Saturday night. So from the competitive standpoint, from you, do you prefer the shorter, more compact weekends, or do you like having like a derby style, where you just practice, and then you get to fine tune the car? Which one do you prefer?
I mean, I would much rather prefer a shorter weekend. Listen, we all got jobs, and it's tough going against these teams that all they do is race, because they can show up, Derby week, for instance, they can show up Monday, test, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and people that got to work to try and pay for the tire bill when we get there makes it a little more difficult. But I just think that the way that they organize the weekends and just trying to make sure that they're taking care of everybody. It's not what can you do for us? It's what can we do for you, which is great to see from a series like that. And it really, when we go race with the UARA bunch and with the American Racer tires and everybody, it just seems like a big family there. Everybody will help you out if you need some help or anything really.
Yeah, I do love that those shows. They do like a dinner and little gatherings to have all you guys together, and I think that's a really big thing. I do want to ask you, Michael, because I've talked to a lot of super late model drivers in my travels, and they're like, man, we like the half-mile tracks, and like Houston, for example, here in Texas. Bobby and I have been big proponents. We want something there. I've talked to a lot of guys, and it's like, well, we prefer the half miles and so forth, but something about that South Alabama track, man. Talk about that. That is one racy little bitch, isn't she?
It is. There's no doubt about it. That place is fun. I've been there 3 or 4 times now for the Rattler, and we had a really good run going last year. Had some brake problems that took us out of the race, but it reminds me a lot of the racetracks we have in Florida. I mean, unless we're looking at Pensacola or New Smyrna, a lot of the tracks are 3/8 mile or smaller little bull rings, and you're up on the wheel the whole time. And that's how South Alabama is. I mean, you're getting after it every lap, and there's no time to relax. You got to stay mentally focused and make sure you hit your marks, especially Sunday there. Like every other Rattler during the day, track gets rubbered up, it gets super slick. I mean, if you miss your entry into one by a foot or 2 foot, the corner was out the window.
Yeah.
So Michael,
but I went and.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I went in the first place I actually tested with Chris and Garvey, and then when I was in Chris's car was at Houston, and that place is pretty damn fun to get around too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you almost stole my thunder there, because I was going to ask you, you're a Florida guy. Chris is obviously a Texas guy, runs all the Southeast races and stuff like that. How'd you guys get hooked up on that deal?
Yeah, it really started with Garvey. When probably 4 years ago, we got hooked up with Garvey on my car, just working together, and then we started to go to races at Pensacola, Mobile, those places, and Chris was coming too, obviously working with Garvey, so we were pitted next to each other, and then I asked Chris one day if I could come out with them to Irwindale and Kern County and that kind of stuff, just to help out, learn as much as I could, and obviously you guys know Chris, great guy, and he was he's like, yeah, if you want to come, let's go. So went out there and worked with them and just tried to learn as much as I could. And I guess he decided that he should give me a shot, and, happy that he did. Last year was the first year with him, and we had a lot of really good races, a lot of good runs, Berlin, Wenatchee, Bradenton, and just had terrible luck leading and breaking or, something stupid happening. So it's really nice first race of the year to get, like I said, get the monkey off our back and see everybody smiling, everybody excited.
No doubt about that. And kind of talk about the Mike Garvey edition right there. I mean, when I realized that Chris was going to, have that alliance there with Garvey, it's like, man, you add that experience and that savviness and all that, that's something right there. When you talk about a toolkit, it doesn't get much sharper than a $2 pistol than that dude right there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's always nice being able to lean on him, lean on him for information and just stuff during the race. I mean, just minute things that he may say or make me think a different way about something is always great. And I think that's what's great about working with Chris and Mike is, we go out there practice and I can, tell them what the car's doing feel wise, and then we all can come up with our own ideas. Okay, how do we attack this? How do we, if we're tight on entry, how can we attack this? And we have 3 different ideas, and most of the time we meet in the middle, which is good. I think that helps us solve the problems faster when we're all up to speed and thinking about what's going on with the car.
No doubt.
So here's an interesting one. I don't want to put your nuts in a vice on this, and you can answer it however you want to, as much or as little as you want to. The current state of super late model racing, on paper, doesn't look like it's very unified. You're a competitor in the spectrum of this course of it. where is it? Is it too divided? Do you have to pick one side? Do you do both? I mean, talk about that a little bit. The state of super late model racing right now.
It's definitely not unified. That's for sure. We've seen things in the past few weeks that have occurred between the series that just sit back and shake your head. It's like, what's the point of even releasing statements like that? It does no good for super late model racing. It changes nothing, except for we're basically trying to screw other programs. When it comes to running both series, I don't think that you have to choose one. I think it's more so, what you prefer. We were the end of last year. I thought we were really good on the American Racer tires, and I thought we had a really good package for the Hoosiers, the ST1s and ST2s. And then come to this year, and Hoosiers at it again, changing tires. So it's like throw the notebook out the window. We got to start from scratch again. So I like the fact that UARA, you know what you're going to get when you show up. You know that the tire is going to allow you to race, however many laps you want to go. You know that you can back off for 5 laps, cool them down, and go back after it. You know that you're going to show up and Ricky's going to have a good program going, and everybody's going to do their best to try and make you have an enjoyable time. And I'm not saying that the other series don't do that. It's a struggle when we have a tire company that keeps switching things up from, people complaining without asking the majority. They're asking a select few. And then also, I don't think it's good business to try and screw somebody else, another program out of races or try and back them to pole cars from one series, to the other. So, I mean, we plan on running some of the ASA races this year, but I think we're strictly or solely going to focus a lot of attention on the UARA this year.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that also is, Michael, because it's like a lot of these events. I mean, it does come down to, and you mentioned tires and so forth. It comes down to tire selling events. I've always said, to where it's like whoever the tire guy is at X race, they're going to have a great weekend because it's practice. And like you guys were talking about, a very condensed show that alleviates a lot of stress for the race teams. And I think that your thoughts, maybe some of these things that happen in mandates and statements and so forth, they're forgetting about their customers, and that's you guys, the race teams.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I always, after the race, if we're in victory lane or if we're in the top 3, I try and say thank you to the race fans, number one. Mm-hmm. But like you just said, these series, they're, customers are us and the people that come to watch us. So it's tough. The condensed schedule, I also think not just that it's cheaper, because you can still buy 4 sets of tires and fire them on every practice if you want to, right? But I think that the condensed schedule also, helps the teams that are more fluid, can work through their progressions faster, instead of giving everybody 5 days. I mean,
yeah,
listen, a big teams, if they unload and they're terrible, are going to be able to figure it out by day 5 if you give them 5 days to test. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's another advantage to the shorter weekends, cost-wise, and you got to have all your ducks in a row. You got to have everything lined up to be able to get through the weekend fluidly and make the car as good as you can.
That's right.
So, Michael, a couple of times you mentioned the big teams, right? And we know who they are. Everybody knows who the big teams in super late model are. Winning the Rattler is big, but is it more just a sense of self-gratification in addition to that winning feeling when you beat some of those bigger teams? And Chris has got a lot of resources, but with a smaller, more homegrown team versus the bigger teams.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I don't know that I get a sense of gratification from beating those big teams, because we don't show up to the racetrack thinking that we're at a disadvantage. I mean, Chris, everything that's on that car is the best, the best of the best. It's basically, if there's something that we think is better, we're going to get it, right? But it's just, it's kind of sank in today, but it's more so just nice to see everybody smiling, everybody's happy. We're showing up to the racetrack to win races, not to prove that we're better than the bigger teams that spend more money. We're showing up to win races. So, standing on the door yesterday and giving everybody a hug after the race was was really cool, and hopefully we can repeat that a lot this year.
No doubt about it. I'm sure you will. Lastly, Michael, so you obviously working here with the 14 team. Still, anything that you're going to do this year with your team? Are you strictly with Davidson, or will you be? Will we see that 55? Does the 55 car race?
Yeah, we ran it January at Cordell for their 10,000 win race. We won that, or not Cordell. Citrus County. We did run Cordell too, but we won the 10,000 win race at Citrus County before the Rattler. And we plan on running a lot of the Florida races at Citrus County, Auburndale. Definitely got to get to Auburndale because that's on the UARA schedule this year. So haven't been there in a couple of years. We got to build a notebook a little bit before we go into that weekend. But we definitely plan on running 10 or 12 races with my car this year.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. Congratulations on that drive, man, and thank you for jumping on with us, man. We always try to reach out, and we want the winners. We want them on Monday. It's a Winners Monday, and congratulations to you. Shake Chris's hand for us and tell him we'll see you guys down the road, I'm sure, somewhere.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me, and thanks for all you do for racing. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Take care, brother.
Have a good night.
You bet. Here he goes, Michael Atwell, winner of the Rattler 250. In dominating fashion, led 249 of 50. I kind of looked away at some point. I don't know what the one lap was. I didn't want to ask him about that, but near as I can tell, he led every lap of that race. He led every lap of that race. That was,
I mean, that's one lick of an ass whooping, right? That you don't get. You got 249 whippings out of it, but who cares about that one? Because that ass is chapped by the time you get to 250, 249.
Man, and that is so cool. I mean, that's cool for Chris. I mean, because Chris, they've done, and I think something that Michael said right there that I think people need to really take to heart when it comes to talking about Chris Davidson is that, like he said, if there's something that car needs, they're going to get the best. They will find the best whatever that car needs to make it fast. And to watch how Chris is kind of, Donnie Wilson, similar situation. Of course, Donnie on a little bit bigger scale, where he's at this point, because he's further into the car owning stuff. And not that Chris isn't going to drive anymore. I'm sure Chris will still drive. But the thing is, Chris is kind of that transitioning part. And I think this is that next step for Chris to where it's like, okay, now they've gone out and then they've gotten one of those big ass super late model races. And I think we're about to watch that 14A car there with Atwell. It's about to make some major moves right here this season.
I think so. I mean, Chris has always been a fiery guy, right? And he loves to win. He loves to run up front. He likes to kick a lot of ass when he shows up at a racetrack. You get a driver with that same mentality. They answered a lot of the questions that we would ask Chris in the same manner. Yep. They have a lot of the same, at least to me, felt like the same personality. And that always helps when the owner and driver have a personality that clicks. So you're right. I think that they've opened up a door for an opportunity to get to at least set the part of the world on fire down here. I don't think it's going to be considered. I mean, is it an upset when you lead 249 of 50? I guess it depends on which side you're on. I don't think they think it's an upset. I think that maybe, would Ricky want, 4 or 5 different leaders? Of course he does. But in the actuality, is it just as good when one guy smokes their ass? That's great too. You get just as much pub that way too with one guy smoking him.
Yeah.
But I think that Chris is definitely, all this is going to do is make Chris want more. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing, and it's a good payday for him, and it's just, and we can talk about this here because I'm gonna try to go to the phone line. We're gonna try to do the old school landline thing here if I can make it work. So I'm kind of watching the dialer here as it's going off to see if we can finish that conversation here with Chance Hull. Let's give it a shot. Chance, you there, my man?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll get back to the late model conversation. So Bobby, you remember what you asked him? It was a good question. I just can't remember what it was.
I don't remember. Chance, you remember? I had to think about it.
I think it was about the how hard they are to drive.
Oh, no. I think we talked about that. I do want to ask you this. Because we talked about this after when we lost you. So we were talking earlier about Chili Bowl and Tulsa Shootout and all that. you've done that. Talk about how do you approach that race? Because we were talking about, drivers going out for a heat race or a B main or a feature. You get a little twitchy, you get a little edgy, and whatever you want to say. How do you navigate through all of that, man? Where it's like you've got to advance. Walk us through your travels with those two events.
Man, I feel like the shootout and the Chili Bowl are two totally different atmospheres. For whatever reason, I feel like the shootout is a lot more, I guess, chill. I mean, you're racing every day, and there's a lot of racing if you're racing multiple classes. But just the hype around the Chili Bowl and the amount of people there just walking around, and you just it's such a big event, and there's so many eyes watching you. To me, I was so much more calm at the shootout than I was the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
Chili Bowl, I get nervous before hot laps. That's just me and who I am. I always get nervous before I race, but
yeah,
that's the world's worst place for sure.
Yeah, no shit on that.
No, I think the question was going to be something to the extent of being able to drive everywhere, with the cars kind of being the same.
Oh yeah,
the kind of the same setup now, where you can run pretty much north, south, east, and west with one of these new body style modern day dwarf cars.
Yeah, we've all been trying to work together in Texas and with the other states, because we all really want to grow dwarf cars, and the best way is for, like you said, people to be able to go anywhere and run, and not have to worry about changing much or feeling like they're going to be outperformed by the car, and not being left up to the driver. But no, I feel like it's a really good thing for all of us. We're all pretty much close to the same, and especially with the Central States Dwarf Car Association getting going and having the car counts they do, and with the first one being in in 2 weeks and in South Texas, and I hear that there's a lot of good guys coming, Cali guys, Arizona guys, Colorado guys, and then all your normal Texas guys. We had 36 cars at Big O last weekend with just the Texas guys. So I really hope they all do come, because I feel like with all the the badasses per se, they all show up to one place. I feel like we could put on a hell of a show.
No doubt. Chance, isn't the thing with dwarf cars, it really is as competitive as everything has gotten. I mean, racing, it's always been short track racing. The racer's going to help each other out. I mean, it's one of those things. But dwarf cars, even to how it is magnified and brought itself to a different world right now, there's still that cooperation with you guys. When you go to a racetrack, it doesn't matter if it's a national event or a weekly race like this past week, or one of the series races. Everybody is right there and literally willing to do anything to help the other dude out or lady. And I think that's one of the coolest things about these series.
Oh, absolutely. We're all like, it's always a good time, whether you suck, or shit happens, and car breaks, whatever happens, you typically always have a good time with dwarf car guys. Yeah. And that's, with how expensive everything is, it all boils down to, is it really worth it? And I feel like with the dwarf car guys, it is, because, you never have a bad time for the most part. And right. Like you said, you go to these other series, sprint car guys, micro guys, midgets, they don't sit there and talk to each other during the races or bullshit. I mean, they do a little bit, but, for the most part, it's every man for himself.
Right.
And, I get that to a certain degree, but, for little money as we're making nowadays, you got to be having a hell of a lot of fun,
That Chance, that's gonna be my next question. You kind of alluded to it just there, but in terms, we talk about it all the time, whether you're running an entry level bomber or you're running a super late model or a dwarf car, it doesn't matter what kind of car it is. The competition is number one, right? You're there to be competitive and win races and win trophies. That's the underlying factor. But that camaraderie that you get, that you build, right? That you either get with that you just have a good time with your buddies and you drink ice cold beer when you're done racing, whether you finish first or last, or you hang out with your family after a race, or getting, traveling to a race together, or meeting fans for the first time that love you and want your autograph. Is it the camaraderie thing that's more important, or are you more the competition guy?
Man, that's
you can
pretty
be both.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of both. I mean, I think when it boils down to it, I'm there for business at the same time. When I show up, I put so much time and money, of my own money, and sponsors' money into my car, and I take time away from events that I can't go to, or time with my girlfriend, which helps. She's with me 90% of the time anyway, but
Right.
just time away from family, spending working on the race car, trying to get better. I feel like I owe it to them and myself to be as competitive as possible. But I feel like I look forward to the after parties just as much as winning a race. Because I mean, hell, like with the Pattersons, they'll be the first ones to drink a beer with you, whether they blow a motor up or win or do whatever. It's just it's fun to show up to the racetrack and know no matter what you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's like no matter what happens, everything just kind of eases itself out once it's all said and done. So for you this year, obviously with the dwarfs there, kind of talk about what all you have cooking. I mean, will there be more midget races? What all's in store for you in 2025? I know we're early on. It seems like we've been going all year, which I guess we have. That shit never stops. But
right.
What all are you doing this year, man?
We're gonna be with the dwarf car a little bit. I got with the C&P chassis guys. I'm gonna be running their micro as much as I can, especially the big shows. And I think that's gonna be a thing for here to come, as long as everything works out good. They're great guys. We should be running the sprint car a little bit too this year with Lawrence Towing in St. Lawrence and B&W Wrecker Service. We've been ready to go. It's just really on all of our work schedules and everything lines up. If we can go load up and go. Hopefully the midget time this year, it just really kind of, like you said, we're all working people and we all got to make our money to be able to go to the racetrack, and sometimes, work's got to come first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, does it?
But yeah, yeah, it's weird how that happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Doesn't that suck? It's like
right.
Spending money I don't have to beat people I don't like in front of people I don't know. That's the way of a racer right there.
That's the truth. I mean, at the end of the day, we all spend our last dollar to come have 10 minutes of fun on the weekend.
Isn't that crazy? So,
yeah. I don't know if we're dumb or what, but it's fun, I guess.
Straight facts, man. And that's a whole thing where it's like, there were times when Chance, we'd go out and race and, shit would happen and we'd get done for the night. And it's like, is this really fun? Cars all tore up, motors blown. And it's like, is this really fun? You know what? It is. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I've had some rough years to where halfway through the year, I've wanted to sell every damn thing I had because every time I showed up, something happened. But you just got to keep plugging away.
Yeah, get pissed off and quit and show back up the next week anyway. No, that's
It's crazy.
That's the way that goes. Chance, man, thank you for being flexible and jumping back on. Went old school with the landline, but I think it worked out. Got it all done, dude. Great win this past week, and look forward to following you throughout 2025. We'll do this again soon, I'm sure.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You bet. There he goes. Chance Hall. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? It's like, you call this fun?
Yeah, it's like, we're doing this for what? And the outsiders are like, what? Well, you run around in a circle for how much money and you spent how much money doing it?
Yeah. It's like, don't you get dizzy? No, you don't. After
story of my life, driving in circles. Yeah.
You get dizzy after. Great conversation there with Chance Hull and with Michael Atwell. Just a couple of other notes right there. I did see, good to see the Rev. I think that I think there may have been some issues with them, track prep and so forth. The weather was out of control. And I do want to touch, let's talk right quick, because I know that weather was an issue all across, Louisiana, obviously here in Texas. I kind of want to, I wasn't the happiest of, and I'll say this because I know that you work there with Texana. Saw a lot of folks beating up there about track prep and so forth. When you got 40, 35, 40 mile per hour winds blowing around, it's really hard to keep dust down. So need to kind of lighten up on that just a little bit. I didn't see a lot of it. But it was just the sense that it was even happening that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. It seemed like it was a good night for you guys there at TRP. I think like anything else, you obviously would have liked to have seen more cars, but I think that we talked about the fireball thing. I want to give a shout out to the track, because I did see something on one of the posts from the racetrack where it said, I didn't have my fireball out there, but I'd like to maybe show up again. And the response from the track was, well, we don't know when we can have you again.
I mean,
yeah.
When there's more go-kart kids showing up, 3 times as many go-kart kids as fireball guys, I mean, it makes you wonder what you want to have at the track.
Right.
Legit. Yeah. One legit fireball showed up. The other 2 were Tony and his 2 cars running 2 classes.
Yeah. Well, and again, I know that's one of those things to where when you bring in a new class, it's like I see that a lot when a new class brings itself in. This is not a new class. I mean, there's a new class there. And I'll be real forthright. I don't know what the fireball count looked like at I guess they ran at the race ranch after I was done there. I don't know what the car counts were there or whatever, but it's one of those things. And that's I like the response from the track to where it's like, maybe it didn't work out. We've got a hobby stock class, and that was kind of my concern, where it's like you kind of already have that, but I totally get it where you kind of want to ride a little bit of that wave. And I think a lot of what Texana said was, we want to respect. I mean, that's 37's class. Look, man, there's no doubt about it. That is a I-37 class. Totally respecting that and don't want to take away from any of that, but you only took away one car, and I don't even know if that car came from 37.
It was AJ Dancer, so it came from everywhere.
No, it came from Red Rock. Yeah. That's a hybrid car. Yeah, that's a hybrid car.
And no telling whose old car that used to be after he re-welds him and rebuilds him and reworks him. There's no telling. He's actually going to run Cotton Bowl with the factory stock. So,
oh my God, I see that guy everywhere. Every event that I've been, I swear, it's like every time I turn around. I actually saw him. I saw him and Brenda at Coda, and they weren't working. They were like fanning. And
that's
they were
unusual for Brenda.
Yeah, they were like, we don't know what to do. They're just kind of walking around, and I'm in a different element over there myself in the fan zone, and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing either. So, yeah. So I mean, whatever. But talk about the winner in the limited modified. That's a new dude, isn't it? Was that
he's getting some help from Lawrence.
Okay, well there you go.
And they were starting out with an E-mod, and they decided they wanted to go limited racing. So Lawrence helped him out, and that guy got a chance to win. And first win always feels pretty special and pretty cool. So he was it wasn't necessarily speechless, but he was very, very very happy that he won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great thing. I mean, that's a very good thing there. Yeah, it looked like a good night, and yeah, just it's
one the guy that flipped, Tim Thompson.
Oh yeah,
and our friends at Race On nailed that video. They followed my lead and actually caught the flip and everything. Almost perfect. And I joked in the pit. Somebody showed me the video. I was like, oh, damn, that's awesome. I got it right. And then the guy that flipped, Tim Thompson, was like, yeah, gee, thanks. I'm like, oh, I mean, it's great for me. It sucks for you. Yeah. And ironically, one of their kids did a 360 flip in one of the go-kart classes. So nice. It was a rough night for white number 95 cars.
Man, I hope they hit church on Sunday after that. I mean, that's a hell of a Saturday night right there. That's a Saturday night special for them. But yeah, so you guys, I guess April 12th next.
April 12th with the trucks, and then April 26th with stems.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a couple of good shows right there. Cotton Bowl debuts, of course. We are partners there with Cotton Bowl Speedway, and we could be a partner track for you as well. Just reach out to us on the socials or at revvedupsportshow@gmail.com. We get you something put together right there. We talked about, we had Donnie Ship on here a few weeks back, about a month and a half ago. The American Crate Late Model Series. You've got the Battle of the Crates coming up Friday night at Sabine, and then Saturday at Boot Hill. That's a couple of good back-to-back shows right there. I don't know what weather looks like. I've kind of just quit looking at weather around here, but man, that's I think that's going to be some pretty healthy, fat late model shows coming up this weekend as American Crate Late Model Series fires off.
Well, the good news, weather looks perfect here for the World of Outlaws at Cotton Bowl, so that's good news. I saw that earlier. I actually watched the weather at 6:15. In terms of weather over there, I hadn't watched that either. But the one thing that we've noticed is you could tell a lot of an event if it's going to be successful or not by the amount of pub you see on social media about an event. And there is a lot of pub about that those late model races coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of people getting love. Apology. There you go. I told you somebody'd see the dog.
No. I've got like multiple monitors going on around here. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's pull that up right there. Your dog scratching his butt. No, there it is. Right.
I told you somebody'd see the dog.
That's what the show does to people. It's like it just kind of makes you scratch. I don't know if it's some of the takes get a little bit uneasy or a lot of people just turn it off. But it he's
back there having a good time himself now. So
yeah, well, hey, I ain't gonna lie. If I could do that, I'd probably do it too. You know what I mean? I just
the dog is back. Normally, my better half actually watches the dog during the show because he likes to come into the man cave and chill out with me when I'm doing shows or watch TV or working on the computer. She's actually at the Austin Rodeo this evening watching Gary Allen.
Gary Allen.
Yeah, and she's like, "Do I know any Gary Allen songs?" I'm like, "You will when you hear them."
Oh yeah. Did he sing Laredo? Is that Gary Allen?
No, he did that.
Cagle. That's Chris Cagle.
Yeah, that one. The plane right where I need to be is one of the ones that he sings.
Yeah.
He's got a couple other, like when we went to Joe Diffie, you'll hear a couple of songs. Oh, I didn't realize this was a Gary Allen song.
I can see. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Gary Allen. Yeah, I like that dude. I like that one. Not to be confused with Gary Morris. That's 80s country. I think that dude's still around. Austin Rodeo is kind of, well, I have friends that are a part of that, so it's kind of lost a little bit of sizzle. It seems like.
Well, it's hard when you go head to head against the Houston Rodeo.
Yeah, I know. Did you see the other night
the video when the video board went out?
Yeah, and it was like the Journey song that I'm sick and tired.
Yeah, Don't Stop Believing. Or no. Yeah, it was Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah. I was like,
and the lights went out and the crowd kept singing for like 45 seconds so they realized something was wrong.
Just kept on singing. That new Journey, that's pretty good. That dude that took over, that dude is good. We heard him, and it sounds just like Steve Perry. I mean, that's really good. I'm not the biggest fan of when folks swoop in and kind of take somebody else's place, but they got a good, and like Steve Perry like endorses it. He's like, this guy is good. This guy sounds like me. That the lights just shut off. I'm like, oh man, Super Bowl all over again, Houston.
That's right.
Yep.
But I don't know, dude. Like the amount of pub that late model race is getting already with some of the competitors.
Yeah.
That you see comment on, hey, we're coming, we're ready, and all that. So that's a good thing to have for any event when you have a chance to get extra people there. So that's good. I mean, races season getting started. They got the Enduro coming up there at Arclitech, so that one's going to be a pretty good show. Talked to Dalton Faulkner about that. And got Houston coming up, and so like we said a couple of weeks ago, we said racing season was here. Now it's here. I mean, when you got all the tracks running and everything ready to rock and roll, and tempers flaring already, and cars flipping, and drivers flipping out, like it's here.
Yeah. Just kind of some other noteworthy stuff here before we check out from the weekend, because it was a full weekend. Texarkana 67 Speedway, the modifieds, Chris Hennigan, another win there for him. You had Sabine on Friday night, and the limited modifieds, Tracy Denby, with a big win there. Hunt County factory stock race here, Rowdy Day goes to victory lane, and it's just you see it all accumulating right here. And we do want to give a big Revved Up Sports Show way to go to our man Tristan Pena, who we had on here last week, talking about his debut at Kern County. They go off and he qualified fifth in that race. They had some issues with the race car. Car got away from him a little bit with handling and so forth. They had a couple of mechanical gremlins. Still managed to get him a top 10 out of that. Very clean Whataburger race car. So nice drive for that young dude right there. That's a pretty good little shining star right there that we got here in Texas. And for him to get that and didn't get his shit tore up is the most important thing for that young dude.
Yep, put it on the trailer and put it on the trailer. Take it out of the trailer with 4 wheels. Put it back on the trailer with 4 wheels. Hopefully, with all the body panels attached.
Yeah, absolutely, looking all good there with that Whataburger orange. Easter Bunny 150 over at Hickory. It's Spencer Davis in the Pro Late Models. Last lap, last corner pass right there on Joey Dwyron. Maybe put the little chrome horn to him just a little bit right there. And Spencer Davis wins the 150 lap Easter Bunny 150. And the day before there at Hickory, those two guys again going one-on-one, the 150 lap St. Patrick's Day 150, lap 32. It is Dwyron making the pass on Davis. I don't think that they got together and got to know each other like they did on Saturday, but it is Dwyron winning on Saturday in the super late model. So action-packed weekend, and like we said, Jared Fryer wins, I think, on Wednesday night at Southern National. Talked about Michael Atwell, and of course Houston is coming up this weekend, and like Bobby said, very healthy sponsorships right there. Let's see what we get in car count. Hoping to see, and I'm gonna sit here and say hoping to see the pits full, because I'm a realist. The pits are not going to be full, but I'm hoping to see a lot of cars and trucks in the pits.
But we know that the smaller stature cars will be there in force. Along with the addition, there'll probably be a handful of Bandoleros making their debut there. So Legends cars will be there. Legacy cars will be there. Now it's going to be up to the more full-size vehicles to be there. So I'm interested to see the Eco Stocks running on a racing tire now. That's something that they probably should have done 3 or 4 seasons ago. But I mean, I understand, you got to do your research before you do a knee-jerk reaction. But I mean, some of those guys were putting on brand new right front tires on every week, and it was a $300 tire.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Pensacola Sunshine State 200. We just talked there with Michael Atwell, but it goes without saying we do need to talk about that. I think I saw 28 entries on the list there for Pensacola. I think that's an ARCA event as well. So ASA Stars, and again with the
I think ARCA's on Saturday, and then the ASA race is on Sunday.
Yeah, I think you're right. With kind of that wedge that is right there in between them, and that's really what it is. I mean, it really is a wedge, because it's like, when you start, I mean, I totally get, I do get, what the incentives and so forth to race a particular series right there. But I think and I thought it was interesting the other day, because you had the high limits with their franchises, the franchise thing that came out, and the money that's going to be available right there. But I don't know if it's actually the intent of high limit or what they're doing, but we're kind of seeing in sprint car racing not quite
the split that you see in asphalt late model racing, but you're just getting there.
With super late model racing, asphalt super late racing, Bobby, it just seems personal. I mean, there's no.
It is. Oh yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, it is. We all know it is, and it's very evident as this stuff starts to happen. But with the sprint cars there, it's like, high limit had a great show, and I think you're going to have a great show at Cotton Bowl this weekend, and coming off of the Kennedale this past weekend, but it's they're kind of heading down that same path, man. And that's why, for all the folks that want a rival league to NASCAR, I'm like, do you really? You may not be a fan of NASCAR, but do you really want to destroy it? Do you want to go down the IndyCar road? Do you want to go down the kart road, the Champ Car road? Is that really what you want to do? I mean, I don't think so.
I feel like their promoters are working together better than they ever have in the Cup side, or the NASCAR side anyway.
I think so too. And I think the fact that they are embracing, short track racing, got a little bit. One other thing that, right quick, that Josh Berry was talking about yesterday, the burnout thing became a question, and I think he did do a little bit of a burnout at the end, maybe did a couple of spins at the end, but got some sound. Josh Berry on why he wasn't totally acting a fool there at the end of that race.
Think back of nights, Saturday night short track racing, that we would do that type of celebration, right? Because you couldn't blow the quarter panels up, you couldn't blow the motor, you couldn't tear the car all to hell after the race, and that's just what I wanted to do, right? Like I don't know, it's just kind of who I am. I did a little bit of one at the end there, just kind of spun around a couple of times, but that's just who I am as a person, right? Like I've spent my whole life working on my own race cars and building race cars, and got my ass chewed a couple of times for doing burnouts when I shouldn't, and tore stuff up, and I just wanted to soak in the moment. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Really, I could have pulled down there and done a big burnout and got out, but I wanted to enjoy it, right? I didn't care how long it took. Like I wanted to go down there and turn around backwards and just have a moment to reflect on that, because it's.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
I like that.
What is it Dale Lemon told Ryan Blaney when the jockey wins the Kentucky Derby, he don't go out and beat the shit out of the horse?
Yeah. Burnouts are cool, but I think they're just a little, it's a lot, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm old. The same thing like what Barry's talking about. I mean, if I'd have gone out there and if I won a race and I went out there and was spinning around and blew the tires out of that car, they would have shot me in the pits. My family, like, what are you doing? We need those for next week. So anyway,
End of the season championship win.
Oh,
That's a little different. Different. Celebrate the hell out of that thing.
That's totally something else, especially if you're on Hoosiers, because they're going to change the compound anyway. But that's a whole different discussion. Also, did want to you mentioned this last week, and again, this is the last one. I'm sorry. You mentioned this comment last week to our friend Amanda Busick.
Yeah, so I should be talking about that run right now, but really, for me, I got to call Fox Sports. All winter long, we heard about the fastest motorsports on the planet. And I was a little confused because I didn't see that PPG Mustang when I saw that ad, and I didn't see that Proc car over there. And the truth is, it's an insult to our fans and to the drivers for Fox to go on TV and say the fastest motorsports in the world, and it's IndyCar? Come on now.
All right, whatever at the end. But here's the whole thing with that. And this is not. And if you're going to be mad, it's at the Rodney R. Don't be mad at Bobby. I know it's 340 miles per hour.
Yeah, 339, 340, right in there. Yeah, something like that.
But it's like I mean, and I say this with the most respect. It's for like 4 seconds. I mean, IndyCar. I mean, I'm sorry. The Indy cars at Indianapolis, that shit, that is the fastest, I think. I mean, I get his point. And I get him lobbying for NHRA because they are kind of the ones left out here. They are kind of the ones that are shit on in this whole deal. But I get the frustration, but IndyCar really is the fastest, in my opinion. I may be wrong.
No, fastest circle track. I mean, never know what they're. I mean, NASCAR could be just as upset about, talking about Indy cars being when the only place that they're usually a little faster there is, I mean, they used to run 210 at Texas before they quit going there and before they started making the aero package to slow them down. I think they were going 200 miles an hour when Kenny Breck popped the fence down there in turn 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, the races at TMS were great. They were faster than the Cup cars. And so I think, Indy is just, what is it? 222, 225 for qualifying now, maybe 227 max, because you're never going to get back to the 235 that Ari Leyendijk had 15, 20 years ago. So,
yeah. And I do think, I mean, I totally, with Tasca, there, I mean, he's lobbying for his series, because it is, they're kind of left out of that thing. And NHRA, I mean, it really does come down to that, to where they are in a tough situation, because they're kind of stuck in there now, because it is, you are inundated with IndyCar. It's like, and I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad, because that series needs to inundate something. So it's like when you watch a Cup race, and I mean, boom, there it is. There's Indy, there's the Indy 500, there's everything that's going to happen right there. So I like that, but I do feel for NHRA to where I wish that they could be like ESPN or somewhere else to where they can get out of that, because
Yeah, but when they're on ESPN, they're on at midnight.
I know.
They have a better TV package with Fox and the Fox Sports properties, but I mean, it's kind of like, I get he was upset, but don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah. It's like if you're sitting in the boardroom over there at Fox Sports and you're like, okay, well, that's a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, like that was the most hyped, highly viewed racing motorsports social media clip of the week right there.
I know, and not for the best reason. Not for the best reason. So,
and Mandy, the champ, Amanda just sat right in there as professional, as normal.
That girl right there. That is a cream of the crop. That is one hell of a journalist right there. Amanda Busick. That day I called to interview her, and she's like, "I'm sitting on my parents' porch. You got time to talk?" I'm like, "About what?" She's like, "Life." Okay. So yeah, super cool right there. She is one of the best, and there are lots of them. Fun show tonight, man. Back on a Monday, 8:20. Here we are. Monday's all right. Still works out good, doesn't it?
I mean, it works. I mean, the dog's a little tired now from licking his ass the whole show, so he looks a little tired now. But
tongue is raw.
Yeah,
raw. Like we said, basketball. I mean, I know probably most people checking in here don't give a damn, but I love March Madness, especially this first week. So, and getting to cover that for some other stuff. Looking forward to all of that with plans getting fired off, and then with all the local racing that's coming up, and then NASCAR. Where do we go this week? Homestead.
Miami.
Homestead. All right. Yeah. Good stuff right there.
You get a new sense of March Madness when you go to Vegas during March Madness.
Oh man,
it is fun. Like you'll be sitting there and you'll hear somebody scream and holler like somebody just shot their dog.
Yeah,
and you think it's somebody losing at a slot machine. It's some guy that just lost his ass in the sports book because the team that he just bet his allowance on just got beat.
Oh hell, you can do that at home. I mean, it's like you sit there and you watch that, and it's. I don't know why for me it's always the Thursday coming up is that first really electric day to where I try to, if at all possible, just try to put everything off that I can to just sit there and watch teams that I have no knowledge about and just sit there and kind of wait for the dominoes start to fall. And for me it's the NBA. I know we've had discussions on here. I mean the NBA I don't really I'll tune in for the finals. I mean I think it's all pretty whatever the case is, but college basketball just kind of like college football. It's exciting, and these tournament games and sleepers and Cinderellas and who gets in, who doesn't, it just kind of adds a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun, and that's where the weirdest part for me is when you walk around and you see people and they've got a bracket in their hand. They're carrying a bracket in their hand, and they have no clue anything about basketball. They know that a basketball bounces. That's about all they know, but they filled out a bracket.
That's right.
Pretty cool.
Does TSU do anyone? I need to do one.
There is one. There is one on the Texas Sports Unfiltered. You can look on the Facebook page. You can look on the Twitter page. It's pinned up at the top at TS Unfiltered. And you can join that. I think it's hovering somewhere around 60 right now, folks that are already a part of that. And you get to go against all the hosts, and I think you win a prize.
That's right. I mean, TSU is a proud partner of us in this show. So
absolutely. So be sure and join that, and you might walk away with something cool. All right, man. Rest of the week, you've got Cotton Bowl. Going racing this weekend. I am not. I've got work obligations, so I will not be anywhere this weekend, as I usually probably won't this year. So yeah. Just looking forward to be able to follow along.
Friday night got Cotton Bowl with the factory stocks, and then Saturday night have Cotton Bowl again with the World of Outlaws for the limited modified. So
there you go.
Looking forward to seeing all our friends out at Cotton Bowl. You'll still see, you don't see as many during World of Outlaw week as you do on a regular weekly show when we show up there. But be nice to see H and Marianne and some of the familiar, friendly faces that we get to see. So
yeah, there you go.
Oh, you know what? Before we go, we would be remiss without publicly talking about our good friend Doug Rollo. Friend of the show, finally lost his battle against cancer. I believe it was Saturday morning.
I think so.
Doug, one of the true good guys in racing, so underappreciated for what he tried to do to promote the sport. If you want to go back and listen to a really good interview, listen to our interview with Doug Rollo there in the archives. Truly underappreciated guy, and kind of a sad day in racing when Patty announced that he had passed. So rough patch here the last couple of months for Doug. So it's glad to see he's no longer in pain and gone to the better side. So
yeah, Doug, it's one of those things when you look back to all the great people that we've gotten to talk to over the years here on the program and the duration that we've been doing this. It's like you go back and you think about Doug was one of those guys that was doing stuff before we had all this technology. I mean, imagine Doug Rollo, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, if he'd have been able to live stream and had all the different resources and phones that can capture high quality video and all the different things. I mean, those dudes would have been off the hook, and the fact that they did, I mean, like Doug, just all the way to the end, just kept wanting to be a part of racing. And when he came on with us, I mean, just great conversations and listening to, we'll dig that one up and get it forwarded back out. But it's guys like that and ladies that just countless contributions that may go untold and unappreciated. But yeah, rest in peace to our man right there. Is a hell of a run and did a lot for the sport.
Yeah, he did. One of the true good guys in racing. That's what you don't get to say that about a lot of people. But definitely one of the true good guys in racing. So he'll be a void that's going to be kind of hard to fill. So
yeah. Always had the best interests of the sport in mind, and that was something that was really, really cool. I talked last week, right quick. Jay Hallis had sent me over some results from I-37. If you guys have race results, we can get them from My Race Pass. And again, big thanks to My Race Pass. Great. Friends of ours that really make life easy. But revvedupsportsshow@gmail.com. If you have press releases, all of those different things right there, you can send those over to us in advance. I mean, we can get them from My Race Pass as well. But anything that you may have for events that are coming up or something that you need to promote on the show, let us know. We're not just talking about Texas. We're talking about around the country. This is a national reach on the program. So let us know, and we would love to help you promote those. All right, my man. It looks like we will, I guess, do it again next Monday.
Looks like it, yeah. As long as everything stays on course, looks like we'll be ready that way.
That's it. 7 o'clock Eastern or 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. He is Showtime Bobby Chaffee down in the southern part of Central Texas. I'm Rodney Rodriguez up in the northern part of Central Texas. Winds are going to continue to blow. Don't be out there dragging your trailer chains. Don't be out there burning trash. Don't do all that. We got enough fires. Man, the other day I was driving to Houston. Man, it was like orange.
Yeah, it was raining. Ashes were falling in Austin. It looked like snowflakes.
Oh my God, just out of control. Don't do silly things. All right, guys, we're back next Monday. We'll do it again. # Real Race Talk, the original. We are from Texas. It is the Revved Up Sports Show. Y'all have a great week.